Hey guys, Anthony here, and today I want to talk about the ego, right? This is a concept that I've become starting to become more and more aware of. That the Lord has led me through different groups that mainly focus on that aspect to understand it, and kind of led me to start speaking about it more. And I think it's something of great value when you understand what it is, how to deal with the ego, and ways how to allow those psychological debris to free themselves from your psyche to allow the divine reality of God, the Spirit of God, to flow through you in a better way. To actually stop changing your mechanical reaction, your unaware reaction to when that you react to reality and through a wrong psychological lens, right? So, what is the ego? Well, the ego is basically this psychological aggregates, these psychological forms or accumulations that you have in the realm of your soul, right? We have body, soul, spirit. It's right here, and it's in the realm of your soul. And the thing is that um, those psychological aggregates, there is actually not just a single I. Sometimes we think of the ego as the me, the who we but the thing is, right? So sometimes when we perceive ourselves, we see there's Anthony, right? We think psychologically that there's only one me. But when you take actually time to do practices like meditation and just stop and allow this machine to that's spinning, that's taking a lot of momentum to you stop yourself and you kind of just observe it. What happens is you realize that experientially there's a whole lot of different me's inside, right? There's not just a single one, but there's many me's with different wills, different intentions, different desires, different stories, different beliefs inside of my own, not my body, but my soul. Whoops. So this is what we get sometimes. There's different psychological aggregates that become kind of this filter that end up stopping if we do an arrow that we see end up stopping the spirit, right, from flowing through into the soul, into the body, or that's also a reflection of how the spirit, on earth as it is in heaven, the realities of the spirit, truth, love, peace, abundance, all those things to flowing into our physical reality from the spirit that is full of, that has an abundance of, there is no lack, right? There's no lack of love, no lack of peace, no lack of wealth. And so all those things, how does it manifest? It manifests in unawareness, those little selves that try to vie control, that control of our reaction, of our action, of how we navigate through the world. And it causes suffering because a lot of it is, we live a lot, certainly humans live in darkness, right? Meaning they're unaware of those different self, those different reactions. They act automatically. Action acts on the outside. We are not aware of how we function in our internal worlds. We've only become accustomed to function in the external worlds. So an example of how the external causes us to react in a way where we can actually have the choice, right? There's a story I was told of. There's two children that are building a sandcastle on the side of the beach. There's giant waves that come, right? And it destroys both castles. There's one that starts crying and whining and screaming at the world, why did this happen? And there are others that's like having fun and rejoicing, right? Same event, same external event, different internal setup. So what happens is they react differently. And often those egos have their own stories, their own perception, their own filters. They make us act in ways where they try to accomplish their own goals, their own, sometimes satisfying their own desires, right? And it can lead us in trouble. So we understand that, as it creates false psychological perceptions. There's, for example, this story of another story of perception that can lead us to negative action, negative patterns, negative beliefs, right? They can keep us trapped in old belief systems. The story of a man, right, who goes and he wants to go and pick up his lawnmower in his shed, in his garage, but then he realizes that it's not there, or a tool in his shed, and he realizes it's not there. And each time, each morning he sees the neighbor walking across in front of his house. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he has a suspicion, a belief that this neighbor, he always looked weird, right? He never trusted him fully. There was something weird about this guy, right? and then he jumped to the assumption that, oh, he must have stolen it. So this negative perception of his neighbor starts increasing and negatively, and he starts getting angry within himself. There's only a simple external event, but there's a whole brouhaha inside of him that tries to be created. And so then he goes to his garage, and then he realizes that he only misplaced his tool. That all of that nothingness, those that was an ego manifesting itself, its desires, its perception of reality, and twisting it and creating anger and wrath within against the innocent neighbor. That's an example how the ego can create false perception, false ways of action, right? We can have egos born from trauma, born for stories that we tell ourselves, right? Nobody will love me, so I have to defend myself. I have to do everything by myself. I cannot receive help, right? So we create confusion in our lives. It makes us suffer, and it keeps us in cycle. Now, there's different symbolism of the ego, right? This multitude of selves through creatures like the Hydra in the 12 tasks of Hercules, right? The Hydra, you cut off its head, it grows one more, or even two more, right? It's one being, but they're led by multiple heads, right? And we're moving left, right. All those egos have different ideas of where they want to go, and it keeps us not united, single minded. And the other way, there's also the Medusa, right? Medusa with the hair full of snakes, one head, multiple heads, and again, each representing an ego. And the way that Medusa was dealt with kind of gives us an insight and a symbolism key on how the ego can be dealt with, how the creature can be cut off, can have its head cut off, its psychological impact and power on you. It's through the hero Perseus who killed it by using a mirror, right? If you looked at Medusa in the eyes, it would turn you to stone. But to go, he used the mirror on his back of his on the back of his shield, and he walked backwards. And when he saw the Medusa, he saw her not physically, but on the reflection of the mirror, and he was able to cut off her head. So the mirror is a symbol of self-observation. What you look at the mirror, you look at yourself, right? And this idea of self-observation, it's something that you learn through this under during the state of meditation when you stop doing and you just start becoming aware of the inside. There's an event outside happening, and what you do, you ask yourself, okay, there's me, there's the Anthony right now. There's this external event that happens. What's happening inside? Noticing, being aware. That's how you get out of unawareness, those mechanical reaction, and you build the habit of being able to disengage from those mechanical reaction. The same way that when you observe your breathing, what happens? Your breathing stops. So that's a practice that you do, become aware of these inside of those patterns. It kind of disengage, disempowers them. And there's even the Hydra. How did Hercules beat the Hydra? Through the use of fire. He burned its head. The symbolism of fire, the divine fire. God is a purifying fire, a fire that purifies. It purifies those psychic elements, right? And it's also represent light, awareness, becoming aware, awareness, and the divine property of God that purifies. Something that I realize happened in my life is all patterns that stopping dropping off just by spending time with God in its presence, its nature, because one of the nature of God is fire. So that can be another way that allows us to shed away those old patterns. So, and as they shed away, it allows the spirit, the realizes of the spirit to flow through us better, right? To exemplify the characters of God in a better way, and not our egos with all his own selfish desires sometimes. And I think about that to end it, this verse that talks about the word of God, not the Bible, but the word of God. Christ is the word of God that judges and that discerns the thoughts and attitudes of the heart, and realize what is of the spirit, what is truth, and what is of the soul, or lacking self-perception, that can help guide us through this process. So that's all for today. What the ego is, um, how it disempowers us, and ways to re-empower ourselves, to stop ourselves from suffering from these automatic patterns. So, yep, that's pretty much all for today. Peace.